Okay, and welcome back here with Veteran Nation. Today, we've got someone very special, someone who I personally have served with, and someone who I 100% enjoyed working with and would absolutely work with again. Uh, Laura Maguire. How are you,
Hi,
Max?
Mike. I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well here. So, how long have you been retired now?
Um, June 30th was a year,
Wow.
so I'm a little over a year now.
And tell us about your career.
So I started off as the almost typical Marine story. I knew I didn't want to go to college. That was just not something that I thought would ever be in my future. So I decided I got to do something. And one day I was just riding my bike home from track practice, and I saw a poster in a window of this place. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty cool looking uniform. What is this? It said U.S. Armed Services, Marines. And I was like, huh. So I went in to go check it out. And there was this gentleman, he had to be no more than 5'6", comes out and he's wearing a pair of trousers and a green shirt, and he's got this mean mug on his face, and that's it. I ran out. Well, I kept going back. I kept going back, and there was this one poster there that just lured me in every time. And every time I went, I talked with the guy just a little bit more, a little bit more, and eventually, I stayed and I talked to him and invited him over for dinner one night because I told him I wanted to join. Mom and Dad had no clue any of this was going on, and he showed up for dinner one night, and my dad, being prior Navy, he was like, heck yeah, we'll sign it. Mom got hysterical, crying, my baby, my baby. But she eventually signed the paperwork, and I shipped off right before graduation. I got my diploma at all my credits, and I left for June 8th, 1998. And
Okay.
yeah, so that
And
was,
you were 17.
I was,
Okay.
it was so scary at first. It was, walking on that bus, you know what I'm talking about. You get on that bus and all these strange faces and everyone's just as terrified as you are. It's like you can smell the fear in the air and you're like, what did I do to myself? Where are we going? And the bus is dark. The trip is dark. You're driving in the middle of the night and then you get there and DIs come on the bus and you get the yelling and the screaming. And it was just like a moment of pure terror. What did I do? And then 21 years later, I look back on it, and that was got to be one of the most interesting and exhilarating experiences of my life. Like I can still look back and smell and feel everything I felt on that bus ride going.
You never forget
No,
that. Oh, it just grounds you. It
yes,
totally
sir,
grounds you.
it does. So,
Uh, Now, for our audience, they might not understand your MOS. You are CBRN, which is chemical, biological, and nuclear,
yes,
and radiological. Uh,
yes.
uh, so, was that your only MOS?
It was, yes. So first we started off as NBC, nobody cares, nuclear, biological, chemical, and then I want to say it was late two, um, about late 2005, maybe six, that we changed our name to CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear defense. So everyone thinks, oh, gas chambers, yay, we hate you, you're giving us a gas chamber. Um, what's interesting about the job is it's not, gas chambers is like a 3% part of our job. The rest of our job is we do plotting and predicting. So let's say that someone were to set off a dirty bomb or a nuclear explosion or a chemical explosion somewhere. We use meteorological data, we use weather data, and we can take all that information and we can figure out based off of the yield, what type of, let's say, chemical agent it is. Is it a persistent or a non-persistent agent? Is it something that's going to stick around or not stick around? And we can figure out where is it going to go, the exact route it's going to travel, how long is it going to take to get where it's going, and how this benefits our troops and our brothers and sisters is we are going to be able to look at our maps and say, okay, we have troops in this area. We have 6 hours for them to leave before the cloud gets to them, or 6 hours before the radiation gets to them. So now we need to extract. We need to get them out. We need to get into safety. Or we got these guys that are in ground zero. They already got slimed. They're already in their Mach 4. what are we going to do for them now? So the other part of our job is we do decontamination. So we'll go out there and we'll set up teams and we'll decon them and pull them out of the hot zone, get them clean clothes, and get them back on their way to continue the fight.
What about the Nicolas Cage, The Rock, the
Oh, you
I
want
know
me to
that's
stick this where? Oh, that I get that question all the time. Is it really green like that? No, no, no. The X is not green like that. We don't have an 8-inch needle that
I
we
know
stab
that
into our
always
arm.
annoyed Seaburn Marines was that movie and how
Always.
Hollywooded up that was. Um, so have you been able to do that in your civilian life?
I could, yes. So for me personally, absolutely phenomenal experience to have that job and have all that knowledge and to have all the different aspects. Like another aspect is like warehousing. We have to maintain all the chemical, biological gear, the masks, the filters, and shelf life rotation. If you know it's only good for 5 years, it's coming up on its 5-year mark. You got to pull it, order new stuff, replace it with the new stuff, send back out the old stuff. So there was a lot of different aspects that we had to that job. But unfortunately, my MOS transfers very, very little to the civilian world. Administration, warehousing, and of course the hazmat side of the house.
Mhm.
Unless you want to do hazmat for another 20, 30 years, that's not something that I personally want to do. I'm kind of done with level A suits. I'm done with smelly gases and being dirty all the time. And it's just not something that interests me anymore, especially for the next 20 to 30 years. So I really have limited skills that I can employ in the civilian world now. And that was really surprising to me, especially after 21 years and everything that I learned, operations, logistics, the CBRN skills, warehousing, administration. It's just very hard to transfer that over into the civilian world.
Yeah, when it never fits into that, that square peg into the round hole,
Yes.
it's quite daunting having transitioned myself out. It's scary, and
It, it
I'm
really
sure
is.
you felt that.
I did. I would say for the first 6 months, like I was on the verge, like I was having anxiety attacks, and it was just, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like I had all these plans of things that I wanted to do. Another thing was to get a job with either the DoD or Log Tech, which for us is the company that provides our warehousing. So when we
Mhm.
order gear and send gear out, that would be perfect. But there's a lot of it's kind of like the good old boy network with those. Even though you get your points for being a veteran and a combat veteran and whatnot, you have to jump through a lot of hoops.
Mhm.
I got emails from 4 jobs that I applied to within 6 months of getting out that wanted to take it to the next step. Well, 3 of them never heard from them again. After repeated follow-up emails, nothing. Didn't
Mhm.
hear anything. I don't know what happened to those. And those were DoD jobs. Like, what happened? Where did they go? Federal DoD. Like, it just doesn't disappear. And then the other job was I finally contacted the woman, and then she told me, well, you have to do a background check. We need fingerprints. We need this. We need that. Okay, no problem. I'll do it. And then COVID hit, so I couldn't go
Mhm.
get fingerprinting done because that's touching, and you can't touch, so no fingerprints. So she actually withdrew my application and pulled me out because I couldn't get fingerprints done.
Mhm.
So I contacted them and tried to figure out, is there something else that we can do? Because I am a perfect fit for this job, overly qualified. And it was, well, no, you have to find some place to do the fingerprinting. And if you can't get it done, then we have to withdraw your application. So they
Mhm.
actually wound up closing that position without hiring anybody 2 months later.
Unfilled.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of been where it's at. It's like, it's hit or miss. Is your resume good enough for this job? Yes. And the same exact job that you submitted for, you're overqualified or you're underqualified. And it's finding that happy medium of how to word your resume and how to word your qualifications to meet that one specific job. So when they say one resume does it all, that's a lie. I have like 9 resumes that are different levels of information that are, it's insane.
Well, it's good that we have you on because everything that you're talking about is exactly what this show, exactly what we talk about every single day. We talk about networking veterans, getting veterans in touch with different services, with nonprofits, with companies that are looking for veterans, companies that are going to help veterans. So it's you're absolutely the audience that we're directed at. So it's quite nice to be able to do this. There is one issue I want to talk to you about, because this was something that happened right after I got out. You were through it, and I would imagine that, as a female, you have a really unique perspective on it. Was the Marines United scandal. And for those who don't know, what was happening is there was a series of, I believe it was Facebook and Snapchat pages, where Marines were sharing nudes of female Marines that they had dated or, served with, and then making just really horrible comments about them.
Yes. So that was, it was unbelievable that something was actually done about it, because that was going on for a good 2 years before it blew up and the whole scandal came to light. So as a female Marine, I experienced having male Marines talking about it and overhearing things, to the point where I went on Facebook and I investigated, what is Marines United? It's a Facebook page. Okay. So I gained access to it. And the first thing that slapped me in the face was the blatant bashing of every woman that they can get their hands on their pictures. And I mean, I'm talking about pictures that were on Marine Corps Times, Navy Times, Army Times, that happen to have a woman in it. And it was nasty things like, there was a female color guard. That's the one that I remember, the female color guard. And she was a part of the 4-man color guard, and the males were just destroying her, bringing up her past history. Some gentlemen claim to know her, bringing up her past history, calling her, I don't want to get you in trouble with the FCC or whatever you're under, calling her very vulgar names, bringing up her past, talking about what positions that they think that she would like based off of her appearance. It was vile. Some of the males would go on to find that female with reverse imaging. I guess you could put a face. I'm not that, tech savvy, but I guess you can put a face reverse image, and they would find their profile pages, find out where they worked and their friends and their spouses, and then message their work, their friends and their spouses, and post that as well, where they're telling work and spouses and friends that this person is a promiscuous individual, and how she gives great oral. And it was just so vile, and it was just rampant. And this was for a good 2 years. I had female Marines who came to me with printouts, actual printouts from Facebook, before we had our cell phones and you had to do everything on their computer, pages and pages and pages of them personally, women that served under me, showing me this is me, and the comments. I did CID complaints, I did NCIS, I reported it to the FBI, and nothing was done. It was 2 years. Anytime that anyone, male, female, didn't matter, if you made a comment speaking out against these things, like, hey, you guys should be ashamed of yourself, or you reported the picture, that in turn, they went to your profile. If you had any public pictures, they would steal your public pictures from your profile, put it on Marines United, and now you were the target. So I was on Marines United as a target, and I was harassed, and I was stalked on Facebook, and I had messages. I had people trying to contact family members. Luckily, the only person on Facebook was my sister. So my sister had a few choice words for him. But it was absolutely amazing how this vile mentality just blew up. I think they had something crazy like 1 million members. And it didn't stop. It was out of control, and no one would do anything about it. We had leaders on there. We had active duty Marines on there commenting about these young women and what they would do to them if they were their junior Marine.
That actually, for me, it resonates, because it happened after I got out, but I was seeing, I'm sure you remember in 2013, the Marine Corps Commandant went to every installation and talked to every Marine and pretty much chewed everybody
Yes.
out. And I was asked by, our CEO asked the group afterwards, what'd you think? And I was like, well, it was kind of stupid. I said, because everything that was brought up, a junior officer and a staff NCO or senior NCO could absolutely take care of. And with a lot of this stuff, it was senior leadership grabbing all the responsibility and keeping it for themselves and then telling everyone
Yes.
else that they're doing wrong. And then you see something like that where it's the senior leadership is the only ones who can really do something, and it takes 2 years.
Yes.
I mean, do you think are you happy with the resolution that eventually came?
The one positive outcome that I can see that I saw immediate results from was the I can't remember the official name of it, but our page 11 for cyber conduct.
Okay. Yep.
That you
Online
had to sign.
harassment.
Yes, that you had to sign it, and if you put anything inappropriate or anything out of the norm or anything that discredits the Marine Corps, sexist, racist, or whatnot, you would be held responsible and you would be charged for that. And I thought
Mhm.
that was a fabulous step to take, because in the following years, we did run into situations where we had people who were, on Facebook and making racial slurs about President Obama. Well,
Mhm.
we had their cyber 6105 that they signed, their statement of understanding for that, and we did charge those individuals, and it did wean
Good.
out those folks that were just, we don't need men or women like that
Yeah.
in our military. We don't need them in our Marine Corps. We don't need them in any service. If you're going to treat people like that, you just need to go. So I think that was a great step that really curbed all of that, or made them closeted. But your true person always comes out.
And with me, you always know that the Marine Corps especially, but the military is a macho organization. And with that are going to come behaviors. And what I was always impressed with were the female Marines like yourself, who could not just survive and live in that environment, but thrive as well. And just be like, no, I am going to do my best job. I know you probably experienced some really interesting things with a macho environment. I'm not sure if you have any stories or anything like that you'd want to share.
So my introduction when I got to my first duty station, and I'm not going to use any names because I was blessed. My first duty station was actually Seabirth when it first started up. I got there in 98. The unit was established in 1996. And we had 80% grunts and we had 20% NBC, CBRN. And our grunts were our leadership. So our platoon sergeants, everybody, everyone was grunts. And then you had the ones that actually did CBRN, and it was us nerds. And that's what they called us, the nerds. So my first duty station, I get picked up from the airport with this like scary looking like burly guy with like 5 o'clock shadow and just look pissed at the world, and a nerd sitting next to him. Like, we can tell our own kind. And the first thing, he looked in the back, and my buddy was with me, and his first name is Dave. And he looks at Dave and he goes, well, you look like a cornbread fed boy. Are you strong? And he goes, yes, Sergeant, I'm strong. And he goes, all right, are you dumb? And he goes, I don't think so. And he goes, you're dumb. You're dumb, Marine. Shut up and sit there. And he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, are you a Marine or are you a whore? I'm a Marine, Sergeant. And he goes, good. Keep it that way. That was my first 10-minute interaction with my 2 senior Marines in my platoon. And those gentlemen were just like, to me, they were just like gods. They were such strong, fabulous Marines, their leadership. But I think what benefited me is that there were no hold bars. They were straight to the point. There was no mincing the words. And it was what they said is what they meant. And was there sexism? There absolutely was. But I guess the way that they raised me in the Marine Corps was, you're a Marine. If you want to wear 10 pounds of makeup and you want to do your hair all pretty and you want to wear your girly nails, whatever, do it. But when we're working, if any of that stuff interferes with your job, you're making yourself a female, not a Marine.
Mhm.
So make up your mind. Are you a female Marine or are you a Marine? That's it. That's the only way you can be Maguire. And I was like, okay, I got it. And that was my philosophy that I lived with for the rest of my time in the Marine Corps is, are you a female Marine or are you a Marine? I'm a Marine. I'm a Marine through and through. So that doesn't mean that I don't wear makeup. I mean, I didn't do my hair and I get my nails painted. But what it meant to me and the way that they raised me is that you don't say, I can't do that. You do what everyone else is doing. If we're going out and we are digging fighting holes, there's no, I have to stop early because my little girl arms are tired. No, I keep going and I dig my freaking fighting hole just like everybody else. Don't segregate yourself and don't treat yourself that you're different. You're not better than the males because you're a female. You're
Mhm.
not better than the males because you have your period and you have cramps and you don't want to work. No, suck it up, take a Motrin, get back to work. You got a job to do. And that was what they put into my head, and it stuck. And I think I had an easy time because that's how I viewed my whole career.
I think the first time I noticed like a difference as to how we interact was I had a boss who she had gone to the Naval Academy, and just one day we were just talking about different things, and she was asking me about the living in the barracks and all that stuff. And at one point we were talking about someone dating someone, and she goes, that was the one thing I do miss about the Naval Academy was if one woman went on a date with another midshipman, you knew everything about that guy like within days. And I was like, oh, okay, so it really gets around amongst each other. And
Yes,
I started noticing that even with the men as well. So it's just one of those things that it always stuck out to me.
yes. But yeah, we're all gossip queens at heart, right? Male, female, doesn't matter. Gossip queens.
Yeah, it makes its way around. Now I do want to talk about, we served together, and we served with some really great officers, some really great staff NCOs. I look at our time at that unit as a very positive experience. And, what came of it at the time, we had Colonel Reynolds, who was in charge of it, who is now General Reynolds. She's now the senior ranking female Marine in all the Marine Corps. And, I loved working for her. What did you think about that whole experience?
Aside from General Reynolds being the tallest woman that I ever met in my life, and being a 6 foot tall woman myself, that's no easy feat. She made me feel small. But I was with CLR 17 at the time, and we just had a change of leadership. So it was a very toxic individual. And I really wanted just to deploy again. I just got back from Iraq, but I really wanted to deploy again. And someone told me about 2MEF. They needed a CBRN gunny. And I'm like, well, I'm a staff sergeant, but I'm going to go check it out. So I just walked into Sergeant Major O'Connell's office, introduced myself, and asked him if I can deploy with him as a CBRN chief. And his answer was, well, let's go meet the boss. I met Sergeant Major O'Connell for, I don't know, a minute and a half. Let's go meet the boss. I'm like, okay. And I walked into this office and the chair was turned around and she was talking on the phone and she was very soft spoken. And it was the first thing that struck me is, wow, like very soft spoken, but very intelligent and had a way with words. And then she turned around and stood up, walked around her desk, shook my hand, and was a very personable Marine. Just her, I don't know, like her whole aura about her is she's very soft spoken, but she just oozes authority. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
She just oozes that authority without having to raise her voice. And she asked me a few questions and I answered her questions and she said, welcome aboard. We deploy in 4 months. Sergeant Major will get you situated. And I left and that was it. The next day, Sergeant Major O'Connell called my sergeant major. I got orders and I went to 2MEF and I started to work in the S3 and started to do the workup and get everything together. So I really didn't have much contact with her until we actually got in country, and we wound up being in the same building, and our hallway was right across from her. And I got a funny story. Do you remember Smitty?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So Smitty, we were in the office and he had a sneezing fit, and he was sneezing and being just loud and obnoxious. Achoo! Our office, our door's right here, right across the hall. His office is right here. Sergeant Major O'Connell, through his is Colonel Reynolds. So we hear Sergeant Major starts cussing up a storm, and he's like, "Get in here!" I happen to be in the office with Smitty. So he said all of us, so I had to go in there with them. So we both get yelled at, and I'm like, I wasn't sneezing, Sergeant Major. She comes out of her office, cool as a cucumber. Staff Sergeant Maguire, I believe I heard you laughing. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I was laughing. She goes, so you didn't have the integrity to tell him that that was obnoxious and to shut his mouth? Clearly, he needs someone to tell him he's obnoxious and to shut his mouth. That was the first time I think I got yelled at by her. Well, excuse me. I think that's the first time I got scolded by her, and I felt like I disappointed Mom, and she was just, she was just so fabulous to work with, and she was never afraid to share information. If you had a question about something, she would just tell you everything you needed to know about it.
You know, that was a very valuable deployment for me, because working with her, but then working with everyone else in the MEF, you know, there were constantly people saying, the general wants this, the colonel wants this. And, you know, it was always stuff that would make us just have to do a lot of busy work. And, you know, my boss at the time was Major Rogers, and he was like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, so-and-so said this is what the colonel wants. He goes, go in and ask her. He's like, go in right now and ask her. So I went and I asked her, and she was like, who told you that? And I told her, and she was like, that's not at all what I said. Here's what I said, you know? And it was just, I was like, okay, so people are willing, or, you know, they're interpolating things, but she is so right at you.
So down to earth.
Yeah,
yes.
She'll tell you, and will not complain if you walk into her office and she's on the phone or typing. If it's something that she can hold, she'll hold and be like, what do you need? And you know, to know that she has advanced to where she is not surprising at all. Yeah.
No, and she, I don't know, one of the best people I've ever worked for, and I guess that's the best way I can put it. Yeah, she was fabulous to work for, and I'm super proud, and to know that she's the highest ranking female in the Marine Corps, and she's still going strong. She's still kicking butt and taking names. Like, that's fabulous.
What do you have anything else that of Afghanistan that stands out for you? People, places, things that we did?
Yes, man. So I experienced my first dust tornado, and I'm from Jersey, so I don't know what a dust tornado is. Never seen one, never heard of one. And we were walking in the chow hall, and I got stuck in, well, it came through us, but I was that person who I was like, ooh, it's a dust tornado. And I ran into the middle of it just so I could be in the middle of a little dust tornado. And that was awesome. I never saw one before, and it was so cool. And you remember my nickname was Walking IED Finder, because, you know, I got 2 left feet, and I'd find every hole, ditch, man, anything you can fall in and hurt yourself. I was like, hey, oh, Maguire fell there. We got to put a cone out because someone else is going to hurt themselves.
There were a lot of places to fall out there, especially with those big rocks.
And Colonel Reynolds, she put together, I don't know if you remember, she put out the TAM team, where we went fob hopping and we checked all the TAMs Alpha through Delta through all of Afghanistan. And I was the lead for that. And that was
Uh,
My God, that
I'm
was an
gonna
amazing experience.
I'm gonna interrupt just because I want the audience to understand what that is. It was a contact team to go make sure that we were correctly doing maintenance, supply, all that stuff, and that was in Helmand Province while Marja was at its peak. So, you know, you had, what was it, 6 Marines?
6 Marines, yes.
Okay, yeah, you had 6 Marines, and you were going fob to fob all over the worst part of Afghanistan during one of the worst times, just to make sure that we were doing maintenance. And that's because we just didn't know. We had to verify, because if not, there we were going to have to like do major switches of equipment and stuff like that. So
And crypto, if we lost any crypto, we would have to change the crypto keys for thousands of pieces of equipment and cost an unbelievable amount of money. So that was a huge responsibility, and it was a incredible experience.
yeah,
And
we ran the
going,
crypto for the whole southwest of Afghanistan, right
yes,
there
we did.
in our little area. So yeah, that was. Uh, was it scary? Was it fun?
It was fun. It was, again, I think it's all about the people that you're with. The Marines that were with me, we were like family because we all worked together at one point or another. The engineer dudes, I dealt with them for my equipment, so I knew the engineer guys that were with us. Our Charlie TM guys, Alpha, my crypto guys, we dealt with the crypto guys because we were in the COC. So there was just that bond that we already had with them before we even started, and um, going just fob to fob, and there was really no flight plan. It was, we arrive in one location, you have 48 hours, and then get the report back, at least a phone call back on the sat phone to let us know yes or no. That's it. We don't need details. A yes for everything's up. No, we know that you have to stay longer to investigate. And other than that, you have to make your own way. We just had the list of the fobs and what fobs we're going to, and catching up with helos and catching up with planes here. Scariest time, we went from one fob to another, and we took a army convoy. I thought I was gonna die. It was horrible. It was. I mean, we were taking pop shots from the side, but the driver was evading, and we were about back and forth, and it was just like sitting in the back seat. I think if I sat in the front seat, I could see what was going on. It wouldn't have been so scary, but I mean, that was the worst for me, was the drive. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to crash, because I'm a worrywart when it comes to driving anyway. But we had a really good time. But more importantly, we met everyone on those bases. We met those people that were dealing with our equipment, and we made great contacts, because every one of them that we went to meet, we gave them the personal name and phone number and email address of their counterpart at 2MEF that can answer their questions and give them replacement gear. And we found out a lot of people needed replacement gear. Like, they still had it, but it was old and obsolete. They needed new updated gear. So that was great. We got to be the eyes, well, the faces for these poor Marines, these poor grunts that are stuck on this fob with nothing. And lo and behold, here comes this chick with 5 male Marines, and we're like, hey, we're here to check your stuff. And oh, they smell clean, and these poor guys haven't had a shower in 3 weeks. So, going into their spaces and being able to provide them a measure of comfort that we are going to replace things. And we brought a lot of gear with us, a lot of accessories and whatnot. So we were able to give them things when we got there, and to see how other people live and how other people did their jobs on those fobs. It was very humbling, because everyone thinks, oh, I had the hardest time. Someone always has it harder than you. And seeing those Marines in those situations was humbling.
And one thing I want the audience to know is, when it comes to General Lori Reynolds, you do not bring her problems. You bring
Nope.
her solutions.
Solutions, yes.
And I remember she kept asking the same questions over and over. And she'll give you as much leeway as you need, but you better eventually bring those answers. And finally, it was me and Major Rogers. We were like, ma'am, we don't have eyes out there. And she said, I want you to put a team together to go look and touch every piece of gear and tell me what it's like. And I remember Major Rogers said, ma'am, we can do this. You just have to give me the authority to build the personnel I want it. I want to do this. And she's like, anyone you want, you pick them. And we went back to our office, and I said, so am I going to lead this team? Because I really wanted to. And he was like, nope, need you here. He's like, there's only one Marine I want to lead this, and that's Laura Maguire. And, from there, it was, okay, who else can we sacrifice? But we knew you could lead it. We knew that if we told the colonel, she would be like, yep, Staff Sergeant Maguire can absolutely do this. So, that's the type of attention that it had. And, I remember we were reporting to the general every night when you guys would call back and say, here's what we found. And we would tell the colonel, she would tell the general before before she closed for the night.
And that was the other part of it, is when you worked with Colonel Reynolds, you understood that when she gives you a task to do, there's no option for failure. There's not. It is, and it's not that.
Find a way, or tell me what you need from me.
Right. It's like inside, you're just like, well, I'm not going to let her down because she entrusted me with this, because that was the type of leader that she was. And when she tasked you out with something and she entrusted you with it, you wanted to make sure that it was successful, but she also gave you the knowledge and the leadway to accomplish it. And
I learned probably the most from her as an officer. One, to trust your people, because if you give them the ability, they'll move mountains. But also empathy. I've talked about this before on the show. As an officer and as a leader, you have to empathize with your people, because you're going to run them ragged, because that's the job. And if you don't, acknowledge them and their feelings at some point and be like, hey, I know what it costs you to do this, you're never going to be successful. So yeah, she was a great example of that.
Yeah, she was.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. I really thank you for coming on the show today. It was great getting your perspective on things, because as always, I know you're going to hit the nail on the head. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Well, it was great seeing you again. I haven't seen that friendly face of yours in quite a few years.
Sorry, you have to stare at this ugly mug a little bit longer.
Hey, 4 eyes.
Oh, yeah, we all get old.
Right?
But
all right.
Thank you very much. I hope you can come back and, let us know how you're doing.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.